with me, Dad.
Okay, honey. Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. Once upon a time, there lived a princess named Snow White. Her black hair was black as night, her lips were red as a rose, and her skin was as white as newly fallen snow. Snow White was so lovely that her vain and jealous stepmother, the queen, feared the girl's beauty would someday outshine her own. So she dressed Snow White in rags and forced her to work as a scullery maid. But each day, just to be sure, Snow White's stepmother looked into her magic mirror and asked, "Magic mirror on the wall, who is the fairest one of all?" And each day the mirror replied, "You are the fairest one of all." And so the time passed. From morning till night, Snow White scoured and scrubbed, with never a kind word from anyone. Only in her dreams did she find true love. One day, while Snow White was working in the courtyard, a handsome prince suddenly appeared before her. Snow White was startled and ran into the castle. But as she passed a window, she heard the prince singing and stopped to listen. As she listened to his song, Snow White realized that this was the prince of her dreams. That very afternoon, the queen asked her usual question, "Magic mirror on the wall, who is the fairest one of all?" But this time the mirror replied, "Snow White." In a rage, the queen summoned her royal huntsman. "Take Snow White into the forest and kill her," she commanded. The huntsman protested, but the queen wouldn't listen. Reluctantly, the huntsman led Snow White into the forest. But though he raised his knife, he could not bring himself to harm her. "Quick, child," he urged, "run away! Hide! Hide, and never come back!" Snow White raced through the woods, her heart pounding with fear. A cold wind nipped at her heels. The brittle limbs of long-dead trees reached out, clawing at her dress, pulling at her hair. Blinded by tears, she tripped on a thick root and tumbled to the ground. Snow White lay there, sobbing for a long time. When she finally dried her tears and looked around, she saw a ring of friendly faces. There were birds and bunnies, chipmunks and squirrels, and even some graceful deer. Those gentle creatures listened to Snow White's sad story, then quickly led her away through the woods. Snow White followed her friends to a sunny clearing, and there she saw a charming little cottage. "It's just like a doll's house," Snow White exclaimed. "I like it here." And since the door was open, she walked right in. Inside the cozy cottage was a long wooden table and 7 little chairs. "There must be 7 children living here," said Snow White. "7 untidy children," she added, gazing at the dust and dirt and cobwebs all around her. "You'd think their mother would clean up after them," Snow White went on. But maybe they have no mother. Maybe they're orphans. How sad!" Then she had an idea. "If we clean the place up," she told her friends, "perhaps they'll let me stay." And so they all went to work, washing and wiping and cleaning up the clutter. In no time at all, the little room was spick and span. Then Snow White went off to explore the rest of the cottage. Upstairs was one big bedroom with 7 little beds. At the foot of each wooden bed, a name had been carved: Doc, Happy, Sneezy, Dopey, Grumpy, Bashful, and Sleepy. "What funny names for children," Snow White mused. "But speaking of Sleepy, I'm rather tired myself." And with that, she sank down across 3 of the beds and promptly fell asleep. The animals found other places to rest. Soon they, too, were sleeping soundly. That night, the owners of the cottage returned. But they weren't 7 children. They were 7 dwarfs, diamond miners by trade, home from a hard day's work. And when they saw their strangely tidy house, they were immediately suspicious. "Hey, someone hid our dishes," Happy said, pointing to the cupboard. "And someone set the table," said Doc. "The whole place is clean," whispered Bashful. "There's dirty work afoot," Grumpy said. All 7 dwarfs trooped upstairs, where Snow White was just waking up from her nap. They took one look at the big figure, stretching and yawning under the sheets, and thought they'd found a monster sleeping in their beds. "Let's attack while it's sleeping," one of the dwarfs said. But just then Snow White popped her head out from the covers and said, "How do you do?" By the time Snow White had explained her plight, all the dwarfs were smitten by her beauty and her sweetness. All except Grumpy. "Tell her to get out," Grumpy said. "The evil queen has magic powers. If she finds Snow White here, she'll swoop down and wreak her vengeance on us." But the other dwarfs wouldn't hear of it. "You must stay," they told Snow White. "We'll protect you from the queen." Meanwhile, at the castle, the queen had learned from her mirror not only that Snow White was still alive, but exactly where she was living. The queen decided to do away with the girl herself, calling upon her evil powers. A bit of mummy dust, some secret spells, a bolt of thunder, and a flash of lightning. The queen made a potion that transformed her into an ugly old hag. Then she opened her book of magic. "Poisoned apple," the queen read aloud. "The sleeping death. One taste of the poisoned apple, and the victim's eyes will close forever." She smiled a cruel smile when she saw there was but one cure. "The victim can be awakened only by love's first kiss." "Love's first kiss! Ha!" the queen cackled. "No fear of that. The dwarfs will think she's dead and bury her alive." That same night, Snow White and the 7 dwarfs sang and danced into the wee hours. Before they went to sleep, Snow White told the dwarfs a bedtime story, all about the handsome prince of her dreams. Then she went upstairs to bed. The dwarfs settled down to sleep on chairs and in cupboards, ready to keep her from harm. Snow White got up bright and early the next morning to make the dwarfs a nice hot breakfast, apple pancakes. After the last yummy crumb had been eaten, it was time for the dwarfs to go back to the mines. But first they had some words of warning for Snow White. "Beware of strangers," they said. "The queen's a sly one. Don't let her fool you." Then they marched out of the cottage, cheerfully singing, "Hi-ho, hi-ho, it's off to work we go." The birds and bunnies kept Snow White company as she began her chores. Suddenly, an ugly old peddler woman came by, holding a basket of apples. She held the red one out to Snow White. "They're delicious, dearie," she cackled. "Try one, But before Snow White could reply, the birds flew at the woman. "Shame on you," Snow White scolded the birds, "frightening a poor old lady." And shooing them away, she invited the old woman in. Once inside, the woman offered the apple again. "This is no ordinary apple," she said, smiling toothlessly. "It's a magic wishing apple. One bite, and all your dreams will come true." Snow White, who knew a lot about dreams but little of evil, reached for the apple, and her friends, who knew the difference between a harmless old woman and a wicked queen, raced off to find the dwarfs. The dwarfs arrived at the cottage just as the old hag was running off. They chased her through the woods and up a rocky cliff. Higher and higher she climbed, the dwarfs close behind. Then she was at the summit, trapped, with no place to go. A sudden storm came up. Thunder roared and lightning flashed, shattering the ledge where the witch was standing. Shrieking, she fell to the rocks below. The 7 dwarfs hurried home to find their dear princess lying on the floor, cold and lifeless. Snow White was so beautiful, even in death, that the dwarfs could not find it in their hearts to bury her. Instead, they made a coffin of glass and gold and vowed to watch over her forever. It wasn't long before the prince, who had been searching far and wide for the fair Snow White, rode up to the cottage. Sadly, the prince knelt beside Snow White's coffin. Then he leaned down and kissed her. No sooner did Snow White feel that kiss than her eyes fluttered open. She was alive! The 7 dwarfs danced with joy as Snow White and the prince embraced. Then the prince lifted the princess onto his white horse, and off they went to live happily ever after, of course. The end.
Thank you, Dad.
You're welcome, sweetheart. You want to pick another one?